Hey guys, Ms. Riz here to help you out with the 212 Part 1 cryptography lesson. With this, we're going to make sure we can create encrypted messages. We're going to learn how to use certificate authorities to validate the ownership of encryption keys used in secure communications and are based on the trust model. And we're also going to obtain well, light just turned off, certificate authority to decrypt another team member's message. So that would be later activities that we do. But first, let's talk about cryptography. Oh, I got to practice learning how to say this. Crypt. Oh my geez. Cryptography is used all over the web. We're going to watch an introduction video right now to learn about how cryptography and what it means to deliver a secure message confidentially. All right, so let's open this up, and you guys can always watch this too. Oh, turn the volume up. What's the volume? There we go. Cryptography is the science and art of delivering a message securely and confidentially. Discipline is thousands of years old. An encryption algorithm is used to turn plain text into ciphertext so that hopefully only the recipient can read it. Decryption restores the plain text. The S in the HTTPS of a URL scheme indicates that information exchanged in a web request and response will be encrypted. These patterns, called ciphers, can be used to create encoded messages that allow information to be sent without fear of the message being read by unintended recipients. Using ciphers to encrypt information is known as cryptography. Only the intended recipients have the tools to decode an encrypted message. All right. Okay, so we want to think about right now in the first question here, what are some examples of information that you might want to exchange over the web that you want to be encrypted? So information that you want to make sure is secure. So clearly, you can probably think of a lot of different things like your credit card numbers, probably your address, even like your location, other informations like your social security number, anything, any of those PII that we talked about, those person, personal personally identifiable information. There we go. I have to say it slower. Okay, so what we're going to do now is look through the slideshow. If you want to go through and read through it, this is actually really detailed. It goes throughout the dates, but just how the history of cryptography has been throughout all mankind. We have different versions of encrypting and decrypting the messages. So first one is way back to almost like 500 BC. Basically, the Spartans used this wooden, or the strap of letter, wrap around a wooden dowel, and they could line it up to encrypt their messages. And when it was wrapped up, it would show certain, messages. Um, Moving on, then you're talking about like invisible ink that's used. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that episode of um, The Office, but I don't know. They talk about plant milk here. I guess urine is also another one. That's kind of funny. Caesar cipher, which is one of the first we'll look at about, right before about 50 BC, where you're shifting the letters over. And you just need to know, okay, what letters to shift over. And then using letter substitution, which is just a more complex version of that. And then we get into more complicated things. Hieroglyphics, we had to kind of use cryptography to understand what those meant. Letter frequency, which is a nice one here, we'll use later on, where we look at to see what letters are used most common, and then use that to help either deduce a symbol or something else. Homophone substitution, and then we can keep on cipher disk. So this is really good. If you want to kind of learn some more about these things, feel free to read through this PowerPoint. You can see slowly we get into more ones that, 1700s, using numbers instead of letters, which is actually going through wheel ciphers. That's like the Da Vinci Code. Okay, Morse code. That's something you guys are probably familiar with. Morse code here, using the dots and dashes, but using that to encrypt messages. Even there's like encryption inside of encryption. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the Imitation Game, but using that during World War II, the Americans could receive Morse code, which they had to go through and change the most Morse code to letters, but then the letters were all encrypted, and they had to figure out a way to break that encryption between the letters. And then once they did, they had to translate from German to English, and go through there. Now getting into earlier stuff, yeah, that's what Enigma was all about. So that's a really good video. If we got time, we'll try to watch that movie. Moving on, then we get to computers that are a little bit more complicated. This is when we're moving into the 50s. So basically, and then we have all of our advanced computer stuff, which really it's complicated. Encryption things more secure. So the biggest one, the first one we're going to look at is Julius Caesar's method here, who took the dictatorial control of the Roman Republic in 44 BC. Not really super important here, but it was a long time ago. They used an encryption algorithm known as the substitution cipher to send and receive secret information. So in substitution cipher, each letter in the plain text is replaced with another letter. And then the Caesar's algorithm just shifted each letter 3 places down the alphabet. So A would become D, and then if we use that as a key, we can go ahead and find the rest of them. And so here, our plain text like A would become D, B would become E, C comes F, and so on and so forth. So what you guys need to do here is first to figure out, okay, what does this message say? So look at it. If we want to decipher it or decrypt it, we're going to have to go backwards. Okay, so what would B go to? Okay, B would go to S. All right, so the first letter here is S with the capital. And we got K going to H. Okay, so you can see going through this, you should be able to figure this out. Okay, now let's try to use the tools that we have to make this easier, because we could take our time and, if we have a really complicated message, we could go through it. But now what we're going to do is look at this code here. You guys don't have to download this, but, since we're using Ripple, go ahead and open it up and just fork this material. And you know what I'm going to do is split screen this so I can see the work and see the code here. So I'll go ahead and fork this. Oh, I need to sign in. After Christmas break. I want to do that. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm not even in the right account. Oh well. Okay, so we're going to modify this code here. We got a main py file, and actually we got a lot of other files along with this here. But we're going to look at the main py file right here. And we can rename it if we want to cipher py, but that probably won't really work too well. We're just going to use it as main py because Ripple only uses the main py file. Okay, let's run this here and see what we need to do. All right, do we want to encrypt or decrypt a message? Let's type in encrypt. All right, enter a message. Okay, so select a message we want to go ahead. This value is going to shift. So let's go ahead and just enter a message like, hello world. All right, enter the number key. So if I go ahead and press 1, all this is going to do is shift everything over one letter. H becomes I, right? And then, W becomes WX. And so you can see we get that shifted over to that word. So not too bad. So what we want to do here is to try to go through, and we're going to use this at the beginning to kind of mess around. So if you're in class today, what we would do normally would be to okay, let's see if we could type a message and go through this. All right, next what we want to do is go through and see if we can try to figure out what a meaning is by deciphering it. So say we have this message here. Could we use the cipher to just basically brute force this to figure out what this would mean? So we could copy paste the ciphertext into the prompt here. And can we identify this message based on the output? So could we figure out what this message is? Why or why not? So think about this one here. Like, what would we have to do to figure out what this message is? So think, how many tries would it have to take? And what would we have to do each time? Now, if you guys can try to figure it out, that'd be good. But here we go. Just try to answer that question there. How long would this take? Okay, can you easily identify this message based on the output? Could you tell me what this message is based off of that? Yeah. Okay. So another way to help this out a little bit here is to look at common letters here. So simple substitution ciphers are easily decrypted. They're probably the easiest one because you think about it, at minimum, it would take 26 tries, or 25 tries. Yeah, it wouldn't take 26 because if you, yeah, you never guess like to shift it 0. This can be done using a frequency analysis too. So for each letter in the alphabet, here's an English language, different frequency. So in the alphabet, none of the same letters appear the same amount of times, or I shouldn't say none of this, but the letters don't appear all evenly. It's not, the alphabet isn't, I mean, the alphabet has 26 letters, but the English language isn't split up, evenly 1/26 of the time. So you can see the letter A appears way more frequently than the letter Z. In fact, if you look at all the vowels appear way more often than any other consonant, except for T. I guess T appears quite a bit, but the vowels are always really popular. Okay, so what you want to do here is to look at this chart and figure out, okay, what's the most commonly used letters in the English plain text? So you can see here, based off this, which one's the highest? Definitely T. E is the highest, and then T, and then A. So you probably want to see, based off the frequency of what's being used, what's the most common. So if we wanted to decipher this one here, we'd probably look to see, okay, what's the most common letter that's on here? I see a lot of F's. And that's just initially what I see is a lot of. So maybe I would try to see like, okay, I could shift F to E and go through and try to decode that. So this is the first part. We're going to look at decoding messages and then using our programming here to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so that's going to end part 1. I will see you guys again for part 2. You guys have a great day, and good luck with this.